Hey guys, this is John, and this is another episode of the Meatgistics podcast. We don't have Austin today. Instead, we've got
Kurt Ratzlaff with Kansas Backcountry Hunters and Anglers.
Get right up on that microphone. There you go.
How about that?
Yeah, move it around.
There we go. Is that better?
Kurt is a often guest, probably who we've had on the most, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think he owns the title for most visits. So.
You know, on our Kansas BHA podcast, we have one guy that has been on like more than he should be, like me here.
Sure.
And he keeps telling us that he's going to start sending us a bill for every time we mention his name. And so, yeah, I don't think
we're not paying you.
Yeah, I don't think
that's a good point. We mention your name about 3 times as many times as you're here.
Yeah.
So there might be something to that.
You're not getting paid for those. We don't get paid for those. So.
Yeah, so take that printer gas. You don't get any money either.
No. Kurt was in the office the other day. We were looking at what we're going to do with BHA Kansas chapter. I talked to Josh Mills and actually signed the contract yesterday for another year of full sponsorship on the national level as well.
Thank you.
So we're big sponsors or big believers in what BHA does. I think the thing that caught my eye with you more than anything else was the cleanup stuff.
Right.
Now, we can get to that in a second, but we have what we used to call back in the 80s a VSE, or a very special episode.
The 80s.
We are returning to an old tradition of drinking on the podcast here. The reason we're doing this one is A, it's you, and we've had more than a few podcasts where we drank.
Where's the confetti?
Philosophized.
Why are you turning red?
It's hot in here.
No, he's turning red now. But it's not even going to be the beer. He's
Right,
already
it's not
red.
the beer.
He's
It's
already
just
red.
this.
Thinking about the beer.
Just this.
Gotcha.
So I've got, he didn't tell me if I could say his name or not. So I've got a customer from Oklahoma who comes up here every once in a while. And every time he does, he'll bring me some beer or something else, and I'll give him some of the stuff I've made. Everything I've had from him as far as beer is awesome. So I'm fully expecting this to be great. This is a Marvelous Mouthful Marzen Oktoberfest.
I love that.
I love alliteration.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
Perfect.
Patrick knows that if he wants to sell me on something, just come up with a title that has alliteration. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Like, that's what smart people
That's
do.
a good tip. I'm going to remember that.
Okay, but let's not stand on ceremony. Go ahead and uncrack that bottle, and I'm going to film it, and we're going to use this as a promo for the podcast. Look at us, multitasking.
Man.
So we've got the Marvelous Mouthful Marzen Oktoberfest.
And I'm probably going to.
And you are struggling. Oh, that's a sharp knife too.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it was before you just rammed it up against.
Yeah, his bone. He doled it.
Then don't give me,
Oh, don't worry.
way to hurt myself.
It's okay. No worries. We're going to start again on this video because this is not going as smoothly as we would hope.
Keep that one going because you could just trim it short, maybe.
No, I'll just
live stream it. Here we are, day 7.
Yeah, this will be a half hour of the episode right here with me struggling.
I saw you do this to a deer once for an hour, for an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, no kidding. That was a hard Monday morning. I'm telling you right now.
I thought that went really smooth.
I
thought so.
The finished video, yeah.
It went a lot smoother than.
There we go.
Okay.
No, now we're still there. We go.
We should
the cover off.
No pun intended, but we should recut up that video because there was a lot of good stuff in there.
Sure.
Here we go.
All right. So
finally,
the bottle says Iron Monk, but that's not what it is. This is something that a Walton's customer who is nice enough to bring me some stuff brought up here for us to try. Let's see what happens when I flip this around. There we go.
What is the most common brewed beer that people like to make at home? Is it something simple, or you got to like to think that they add so much experimental stuff that it's either always got to be an IPA or a dark.
I think it's usually an IPA. Hey, what is wrong with my eyes?
You're Patrick, you're gonna let that sit for a while.
Oh, okay.
it got a little away from me there.
You're gonna want to tilt that glass.
Leave this all in, but my eyes look very red. That's weird. I didn't notice it. I tried to flip the video around to get I looked at myself and I was like, that's not a good look.
Hold on, John. What did you put in my cup first to make it foam like that?
Nothing. He poured it
I poured it. Like I said, it kind of got away from me a little bit there.
You grabbed this glass and you said, do you have a problem drinking out of this one?
I did say that. Guys, great start. Great start to the podcast. We're keeping it nice and organized.
What are you
That's
talking
great.
about? This
It's amazing.
I love how
Yeah,
conversation.
like I like the. I think one of the other times I was here and we were drinking, we were doing Oktoberfest too, and I said that my favorite Oktoberfest is Left Hand Brewing Company's Oktoberfest, and that's really similar. It's very similar to that. It's really good. I really like that a lot.
A lot going on it.
Yeah, it does.
It's a little darker than what I would normally think of as an Oktoberfest, but
Agreed.
it is a
But it
Marzen. So
It cuts through nice though. It doesn't linger the way a normal dark would start to build at least in my mouth, build the saliva up in a way that's unappealing. Like I said, nice, easy drinker. It tastes how my dad's breath used to smell. So it's kind of, you know what I mean?
so it's good for Patrick.
Yeah,
He's enjoying it.
Yeah,
He's
it's
enjoying it.
nostalgic. So
Yeah, it's got
some of the beer made it through the foam on that. Sorry about that.
it's got some
I'm
nice
wearing it for
sweetness.
sure.
This has got some nice sweetness to it
It does.
all around. Excellent. Well done.
Yeah. To whoever made that, well done. That is fantastic.
I almost wish this was a Christmas beer because I loathe Christmas style beers.
Have you ever had Harpoon Winter Warmer?
No.
Try that.
Okay.
That's
I'll try
Christmas
that
beer. That is delicious.
one. That one,
That's
and then
really
maybe what's that? What you like that Prairie something?
Prairie Artisan Ales.
Yeah.
But those are sours. Oh, you're talking about Da Bomb.
I think so.
Yeah,
there was
the
one.
bomb
Oh
is
yeah,
their
yeah. Was it
Christmas
the?
one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. That's a really good one too. But yeah, no, I'm a big sour
What?
ale
me
guy
too.
usually. Yeah.
How would
Yeah,
a guy
sours.
at home determine his alcohol percentage in something like this?
Well, what is alcohol? Alcohol is the byproduct of the yeast eating the sugar. So I think it's probably how much sugar you put in.
So there's probably some kind of device that,
Oh, I thought you were like
I don't
asking
know.
for
like,
a
what is?
calculation.
No. Like, yeah, if you made this at home, like, I want to know how strong it is.
Yeah, because this says he's got it on here at 7.2.
Yeah.
But I don't
he
know if
must have
that's
some kind of device then to be that accurate. That'd be cool.
I've always kind of wanted to do the homebrew thing, but just never have, but I've always kind of wanted to do that.
it's a lot of work though.
It seems like fun though.
So a couple of weeks ago, we made pork rinds.
Mhm.
I went and got some pork skin. We, did all that. And I mean, it's a little bit more difficult than you would think, but the taste is good. But they're like $2.50 a bag at the grocery store. Just go buy it. There's beer right there at the grocery store.
And I think that's always been the stumbling block for me is like, as we were talking about, there's a real nice liquor store not far from here that has a great beer selection.
You would have to like get other beer to drink while you make your own beer. You wouldn't have a profit until like
Right.
Yeah. So
We're not saving any money here.
no, you're not. You're just thinking of a new hobby that like, well, I gotta drink while making beer.
And what if you make it and it's terrible?
oh my God, I didn't even consider that.
Who was it? Somebody brought some made beer or homemade beer. They were trying to make it like a double or something. And do you remember that? It came out like I don't know if you were here.
No.
It came out like an Abbey Ale. It was awesome. For some reason, I want to say it was Brett.
I feel like
That's probably
every
wrong.
good recipe ever for anything, right? It's a happy accident, right?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to. Yeah.
Champagne.
There you go.
Yep.
For
Nice
sure.
happy accident. All right. So
For sure.
we've also got some snack sticks to try.
You want me to
These
dull your knife more? Or do you
Yeah,
wanna
go
cut
ahead.
these?
It
I'll let you, since you
should.
didn't like the way I utilized your knife on the beer. I'll make you open it. Doug.
wonder if it's going to be sharp enough to cut through this plastic.
barely. Look at that.
No, look at
Just
that. It's
barely.
just barely. This is
Oh,
going to need to go
please.
back on the True Hone after.
Oh,
Oh, good reason to use
Yeah.
the true.
Sick.
yeah. It's like, I feel so sorry for
Do you
you.
have
should.
do you have a measly? How expensive is that? True Home.
It was $1,200 the last time I
Yeah,
looked. so it's
measly $1,200.
probably like $1,800 now.
around.
Yeah.
would be my guess. But no, we've got two different snack sticks here, and they're ones we don't make much. So we have the Asian Sriracha, and we've got the Mandarin Teriyaki.
See if you could pick up what you did different to these.
Oh.
I don't want you to tell me.
He's not going to. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not a
Taste one. You're not going to
What
get
do
it.
you
like
might-
a connoisseur guy of these, but
Is the
we'll see.
flavor not immediate?
I don't think it's powerful at all enough. But we had another customer, Meatgistics guy, Rafter, send in some honey for us.
I was going to say.
No, you weren't.
Dude, I
says-
swear.
Oh, it says with honey
It says
right on
with
the label.
honey right on the front of it. I was like, I wonder if they're talking about the honey.
That would have been awesome.
I thought maybe it was a
You're too
texture
keen
thing
on
or
it.
something, but
No, so we added 2 tablespoons of honey to each batch. They were both 10-pound batches. And that's just not enough to get that taste across. You may pick up like a tiny bit of sweetness that might not normally be there. But you need to add more than 2 tablespoons. So we know that now. The next batch we make, we'll try.
I'm not picking up any honey, even with you telling me that. It's like I'm still not.
We'll try and up that to see what happens. Now the cool thing with these is this is a 16 millimeter casing, and we did this on our electric stuffer. So we have to get a little 10 millimeter horn, get the 16 millimeter casing on there, and it went through it no problem.
Yeah.
We don't have the 10 millimeter stuffers or 10 millimeter tubes for sale yet, but we will hopefully shortly.
That's good.
Thank you.
I like that.
So when those come for sale, will they come with the unit or you have to buy them separate? Okay, cool. Or there's an option C.
We do the same thing with our manual stuffers. We have a 10 millimeter for those, but we don't sell it. Like it doesn't come with it. 12 is the smallest that comes with either one of them. Because while it does work, it's not really necessarily recommended. You know, a 19 millimeter or 21 millimeter, that's the smallest snack stick you really should be making at home. But
I'm just looking back at that gigantic stuffer back there and thinking about what I think of as my little 11 pounder that I've got at home. You know, it's like that thing looks gigantic.
The 11 pounder is awesome though.
It does. It's more than I need.
Yeah.
But I just look at that. I have an 11 pounder and that thing looks massive.
No, I'm in love with this thing now.
Jeez.
My favorite thing to do would be like when we first got that, and sure it was test, but like say we're doing like a how to make snack stick video, like that's the one we're using because, you know, least amount of time, and that's the one we want to promote and all this stuff like that. And to see John, to like the meat get away from him once in a while, and he go, hold on, slow down. And it's not, and he can't, it's not automatic. And he just unplugs it, and I just go, oh man, now that's a fun. So to go through all the chapters of it from like not even being a product to then like seeing it flushed out and like this doesn't work, and then now it's like now we're getting 10 millimeter on stuff, so that's cool. So.
That is cool.
You can look in that back corner there. There's the graveyard of the early, like the nope, this is gonna work. This isn't gonna work. This is gonna work.
And it's oddly like for just weird reasons, you'd really have to stare at it and go like, well, why is it not doing what it should be doing? And you go, oh, this weird space here, or this thing's not pushing down far enough, or the trial and error, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Other than the upgrade to a more powerful motor, the most important thing we did was move the nozzle down or up even with the bottom of the stuffer.
That's nice.
So it used to come underneath. And once we moved that up, the pressure just reduced dramatically. And I'm not smart, so I can't explain why that happened, but I do know it did happen. So,
but you're wrong. The coolest thing is the drawer that all the horns fit into. So
I think that was Patrick's contribution to this.
I don't know if it was. No, I really like it. Like
there you go.
When you're when you film meat coming out of a canister for a few years and then they add a drawer, I go, oh, here we go, baby.
Look at this.
Something to show the people.
That is actually pretty funny. Patrick, I still have it down, even though we don't have Austin here to ask.
Yeah.
So I'll try to move it to next one, but was it you who asked the question? Has anyone ever tried to bring a deer to Walton's to process?
Yeah, I did. I go, someone had to have been
Must have happened.
They probably had it in the truck, walked in, sniffed it out, went, oh, this isn't that type of place, and just left.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh, for sure. Because you type in meat, because there's all the negative keywords we never used to have that would be like meat processing store or meat butcher store. And we would pop up and we go, nope, because we were accidentally competing for those words money-wise, so we had to kill them. And by doing so, we realized, like, I wonder if someone actually thought we were a processing plant. So.
Google Ads is a labyrinth. Absolute labyrinth.
It makes no sense. You're always a step behind no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, so. By design, I feel like.
Oh, for sure.
Like they intentionally.
Yeah. The universe is expanding, and we're just one of the things flowing through.
Okay. Another interesting fact that somebody brought up that's going to make me restart Meat Fact Friday on social media was, do you know how Henry Ford got his inspiration for the manufacturing line?
Nope.
Knowing that I'm asking this in the business we're in. Any guesses?
I'll say no, because I don't know.
He used to work at a slaughtering plant and realized that what they were doing was exactly the right way to do car production, just in the exact instead of taking a hole and breaking it down, you take the broken down parts and finish with a hole.
Right.
I thought that was pretty awesome.
That is a good way to see that.
Well,
it makes sense.
So it's on the History Channel was doing like Great Men of America, and that was on there with him.
What are tires made out of?
Rubber.
What's rubber made out of?
trees.
Is it really?
Yeah. You ever heard of a rubber plantation?
What's glue made out of?
Horses.
I thought it was cows. I was
Maybe
trying to
that
get you
too.
to say cow. That was my whole thing.
Why did you want me to say cow?
Because that's where initially it's a full circle then.
Oh,
Because then
okay.
they're even. He went like, well, you need them to go on something. He went, I got a solution, baby.
Make sure we leave enough for both of us to have a glass and a half.
We're going to have to pace ourselves.
Why?
I
It's
love
almost
that.
empty.
The tone. Yeah. What are you talking about?
It's going to be gone one way or the other. It's not. There's no reason to pace yourself. Just drink it. What'd you think about the Mandarin teriyaki?
I'm generally not a teriyaki fan,
Mm-hmm.
just generally speaking, and I did like the sriracha ones better.
So, the Mandarin teriyaki, in my mind, has too much of a soy flavor, but I'm wondering how much of that is because it's with pork. Like, I'm wondering if I would like it with beef.
That's a good thought.
No, because that umami flavor from soy
that would definitely make a difference, and it might make that difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be.
might be significantly better.
Yeah, that could be. But yeah, I like the sriracha one with honey.
And
even though you can't taste
yeah, and undecipherable amount of honey or some amount that you just can't taste it at all. All right, so a couple weeks ago, I sent you an email because I saw that your statistics came out again for BHA, and I think that was one of the first ones we ever had you on for.
I think so.
To go over.
I think so.
So, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, because I always get kind of a kick out of that because our world seems to like be very polarized at the current time, and I just think that BHA is an interesting group of people because it's not a polarized group.
Right.
It's just absolutely not. Just the opposite, in fact. And I looked at it again right before I came over to remember for sure what it all was. And there are that like politically, it's still like 4 equal groups of people: Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and those who won't even answer the question.
I'm not telling you.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And I still love that. I just think that's amazing that there are still groups like that in our world today, because I think that's a good thing. I think that's a strength. I think that gives us strength because we do get all different perspectives and all different points of view, and we all have to, put that all together and pull behind our public lands and waters and set the rest of that stuff aside. And
Sure.
we do that.
But I imagine it actually makes sense that you guys would be split like that because you've got different people joining for different reasons. You've got
Right.
your people who want to join because they want more access to public land to hunt. You've got people joining because they want to keep the nature pristine and cleaned up. And you've got people who are joining because they want the government not involved or more involved. So it makes complete sense.
It does. It's like it's people that want to do everything by themselves.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. All I want to go do is walk around in the mountains, and find an elk and put it on the ground and carry it out and take it home and feed my family.
Right.
Leave me alone. And then there's people that it's a giant social event to go elk hunting, and it's like, we need our government to do this and that. And it's just like, it's just like an interesting mix of people. And I don't know. I love that. I think it's fun. It's a challenge sometimes, like from a leadership position, it's kind of a challenge sometimes because you don't instantly know like what perspective, what part of BHA that person has taken when you're talking to them. So it's kind of a challenge sometimes, but I like that. It's fun. I love all the different perspectives. I get a kick out of that.
So speaking of leadership, I know you've got some things coming on the horizon. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for like me?
Yeah.
Is it, okay, yeah. So I've been the chair of the Kansas chapter of BHA since we started in 2019. And actually it started in 2018 when the whole process got started. So I've been the chair of Kansas chapter since then. And my term ends the end of this year. And I've always, as I was telling you guys the other day, I've always been a person that was pretty interested in the concept of term limits politically.
Yeah.
I understand. I'll get back to that. But I've always been pretty interested in term limits. And so I thought I should probably apply that to myself. If I think it should be applicable to others,
Sure.
I should probably apply it to myself as well. There is a way that I could have extended it, but I don't think that's right to do that. And so my time as chair is going to end at the end of this year. And we've got another guy that's willing to step up into the chair position and is going to do a great job. I have zero doubt about that. He's a good dude. Probably the best, speaking of elk hunting, he's probably the best elk hunter I've ever met personally.
Okay.
Like he
like, have you been out in the field with him, or are you just hearing
all
stories?
I see is results.
Oh,
man.
okay.
And it's Marshall Loftus is his name. And I think it's like him and his brother and their cousin. They go every year at least once, and somebody has a tag for wherever they're going. Sometimes two of them do or whatever, but they all go out, and like this year, like he got a monster.
Yeah, you showed me a picture of it.
Yeah.
Thing was huge.
And public land is not, they do all of it themselves.
Right.
It's completely do it yourself on public land, and they get elk every year or darn close to it. And they're just, they know what they're doing. They spend a ton of time on researching before they go out. He spends a ton of time on the whole application to get tags here, there, wherever in the state. He spends a ton of time on that. So it's because he does the work. They put in a ton of work ahead of time, and then they work their asses off when they get out there too. And this year, it all paid off. He got just a monster of an elk. And so he's going to be taking over as chair. He's a great guy, super smart. And so he's going to do great. I have no doubt about that, because just like elk hunting and all that kind of stuff, he's going to put in the work. And so it'll be great. So I'm pretty excited about that. Marshall's going to be the chair, as far as I know, unless somebody else steps up and wants to get in the conversation for that as well. I'm going to slide over to like taking care of the policy and legislative stuff. I can't believe I'm saying that. I've spent my entire life avoiding politics, and now here I am. But the thing is, I'm retired. I've got the time.
Right.
It's hard to do that stuff in the evenings. Hard to do the policy and legislative stuff in the evenings. It's easier to do that when the legislature's in session during the day, because that's when they're doing their thing. So that's what I'm doing. Not excited about that terribly, but I will do it, and because there's always stuff that needs to be done, for sure.
So you're actually going to go to the courthouse, whatever, the legislature,
to the state house.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll probably do that
while they're hearing arguments, whatever.
Right.
Get up and be a voice for BHA.
Yeah, so I'll be doing that, and also the Wildlife and Parks has the Wildlife and Parks Commission, which is the group that sets all of the regulations for hunting and fishing in Kansas. They're the ones that set that, and so I'll go to their meetings and express our points of view there. We also got included recently, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has what they call their state technical committee meetings. And that's basically like for feedback on what's going on with the Farm Bill and what has come out of the Farm Bill, basically like all of the government. And I'm terribly going to probably butcher how this all works, but it's the USDA. It's their attempt to get some feedback on the money that's being spent through the Farm Bill. Okay. And so we got included in that as well. So we get to give some feedback on what's going on with that from the Farm Bill side.
How does BHA get included in that?
Because of, it's kind of a long process, but when you look at wildlife, not just Kansas, but in America, wildlife is owned by all of us citizens. Right. We all own all of the wildlife. And it's called the public trust doctrine. Been around since our country started. The founding fathers got this whole thing. They wanted to get away from the way things were done in Europe and in England. They wanted to get away from that, the whole king's deer concept. In America, we own the wildlife. All of the Farm Bill stuff, not all of it, a lot of it has to do with conservation practices, which impacts wildlife. Okay.
Makes sense.
That's us.
There you go.
And so we're the voice for the public lands and wildlife. That's kind of our catchphrase, if you will, public lands, waters, and wildlife. And so that's how we get involved in the whole process. So we get to give some feedback on what we're seeing from the wildlife side of things on the landscape. Okay. And so I'll be taking care of those as well.
Sounds like fun.
I can't wait. Actually, I've been doing most of all that stuff already. So so it's kind of a reduction. We've got some guys that have been helping a lot on the legislative side. I'll be stepping up on that, but the rest of that stuff I've kind of been doing already. So.
And you were a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So you're already good at reading legal documents, I imagine.
I can read that.
I can't.
Yeah.
Like as soon as it starts saying party A and party B, and I'm like, no, I'm done. Like, why don't we just use everybody's name? Keep things simple.
Actually, it makes it more simple.
It does not.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Maybe once you train your brain for that.
Yeah. After you get through it, yeah, it does.
Right.
That's okay.
For the average person, just call everybody by their names. It's a lot easier. For us simpletons.
But yeah, so we've got a lot of changes going on. We got some changes going on nationally at BHA as well. Excuse me. So it's a time for change at BHA, but the mission of BHA is just so good.
It is.
It is. The mission statement.
And it's young.
It's young. That's right.
44?
The survey showed actually we've jumped up in age a little bit.
That's disconcerting.
It's fine.
You oldies.
It's fine. But yeah, our age did jump up a little bit. And I think that's still a function of, when we couldn't get out and have pint nights there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think because we signed up a lot of members, a lot of young members at pint nights.
That makes sense.
And so I think that skewed the numbers a little bit for a little while. And I think they'll come back down. I'm not real concerned about it.
So I know you've said that pint nights haven't gotten back to pre-COVID levels.
Correct.
Is that true just in Kansas, or is that true?
No, I think for some reason it's especially true in Kansas.
Okay.
But I think across the nation, I think there's still been a little bit of that. And what we've really found is like pre-COVID, all you had to say was, hey, we're having a pint night down at, Walton's or whatever, and people would show up.
Sure.
Now it seems like you have to do something a little extra to get people to come out to your event.
Okay.
Like we've started doing up in the Kansas City area, we've got a couple of the younger guys have been doing trivia contests at our pint nights. And that has just changed everything up there.
Yeah.
They get lots of people to those.
Drinking is no longer enough. You have to show people you're smarter than them too. That's what really draws you
guys. Is that not how you drink anyways?
That's actually a fair point.
Well, I just steer topics into, what I want to talk about. I go, oh, no, none of that. What are you guys talking about? Let's steer it. My expertise is
We're going to go into heavy metal here.
I've never seen him try to do that.
Heavy metal music. And what else we got? Tennessee Titans. Other than that, he goes, did you see anyone else play? I go, there's no other teams besides.
That's all he,
I don't watch
that's all he does. So when you were talking about national, LAN has stepped down.
Right. The CEO, Lantani.
And I know they're down to the last few candidates, or there's a few candidates left that they're looking at, but hopefully you'll have a CEO again.
Yep, that I'm sure is going to be happening real soon.
Okay.
The good news is that the North American board, which is the board of directors of BHA, is a good, strong group, and so I'm sure they're going to make a good decision.
Okay.
It's a bunch of good people, and they all get out and hunt, and they all get out and fish, and it's folks that do all of the stuff that we all love to do.
Right.
And so they'll make a good decision. But yeah, they've got several roles to fill. And so it's going to be a challenging time. There's no question about that. But yeah, we'll have a new CEO real soon. And then that person will have to put in place a new national policy person. Our national policy guy is a guy that I got to know pretty well, John Gale. He is a super smart guy, pretty charismatic. He's one of those guys that has just got crazy life experiences. Right. Like just wild stuff, and I was out at you guys are going to the governor's pheasant hunt again this year,
not
probably.
Next weekend, but not this weekend, but actually
I got invited out there right after.
Are you going?
I am not sure. I'm probably
that
not.
means a no. Okay.
I'm probably not. But I got invited by Pheasants Forever to go out there when BHA first started, only because they really wanted John Gale to come talk, and they felt like I was the key to getting him there.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's the only reason I got to go. But it was amazing. They always have a theme every year for the presentations at the stuff, and that year it was conservation groups was their big theme, and so what was his name? Howard Vincent, I think the CEO of Pheasants Forever, he was there. The Ducks Unlimited CEO was there. Like all the CEOs of all of the big groups were there. And it was amazing because John Gale came in and they were all quiet and he talked. And it was just super incredible.
So was he just good at holding court, or did they know who he was?
Oh, everybody knew him.
Oh, okay.
It was, you know how you have just like super weird moments in your life? Just like, how did I get here kind of moments? One of those, I had one of those at that deal because I found myself sitting around a table at a bar drinking beers with all of those CEO people. Yeah. You know, and I'm like sitting there just like,
how did I get here?
What the hell am I doing here? You know, and it was hysterical because when John walked in, everybody put their drinks down, turned around and looked at him, and he came in and just like held court. And it was like a very cool moment. You know, I was like, I think I'm in a good group of people.
Yeah.
And so John is super smart. He was our national policy guy. So when something went on in DC, he was in the thick of it. And he was super, super good. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know, I hate for BHA to lose him. Mm-hmm. He elevated us so much on the national scene. It was amazing. At the same time, like he took a very high-level position in the Bureau of Land Management, which manages more land in America than anything else.
Yeah.
And he now has a very high position in BLM. And so to have somebody with BHA roots, you know, in that kind of position is unbelievable. And he came from, you know, our little organization, and he's up there and he's going to do great things. I have no doubt about that.
Two things though. Can you really, I mean, I know you guys like to think of yourself as a small organization, but are you really anymore?
Oh,
I mean, how many chapters are there?
Well, we got 40? Chapters in every state, or except for like Delaware or something like that. Delaware and Hawaii or something like that. But yeah.
And then you have how many members approximately? Do you know?
I think we're 30 or 40,000, something like that.
Is that really small anymore though?
I don't know. It still feels like it.
Okay.
I don't know. It feels like it is all I can say.
Sure.
I just always feel like we're the little guy like down there slugging it out, trying to get stuff done. And, you know, Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, which do great things. I'm not saying anything about it, but it's like those are the big guys.
Right.
And they have hundreds of thousands of members and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they seem more, and I'm not honest. I mean, Pheasants Forever, obviously, I'm more familiar with as we were a national sponsor of them for.
Right.
But they do seem to be a lot more concerned with raising more money and with, you know, I'm sure for good stuff and kind of like land acquisitions.
Right.
Than what BHA seems to be.
Correct on every account, and in a good way. No, you're absolutely correct. They do raise a ton of money.
Yeah,
there's no disputing that. But they do land acquisition stuff. BHA is not in the land acquisition basis or business.
Right.
We don't do that.
And as far as raising money goes, sometimes we have to remind you, like, hey,
I know.
We owe you $5,000. We said we were going to do something here. What are we doing to give you this?
So yeah. And you guys are ridiculously awesome for us. I mean, you guys are. And I hate to say this, but like, we're really not concerned that much with money.
Sure.
What we really want to do is like, you want me to say it?
Go.
Get boots on the ground.
There you go.
Well, I knew that'd make you happy. But yeah, we like to get out there and get after it. And one of the things that I have loved about the relationship that we've all developed through all of this stuff is that you guys are the official sponsor of Kansas BHA service projects.
Yep.
And I love that.
Well,
I mean, I just think that because that's like the thing that like really gets me going is doing service projects. I love that.
That's what got you on our radar more than anything else was the going in and ripping out old fences, taking out 50 bags of garbage, things like that. Can you talk about the story you were telling me, the farmer who you agreed to?
Yeah.
Can you tell that story?
Yeah, sure.
I think that's a really cool way. And hopefully, because, we don't have great public access in Kansas.
We've got the worst.
Right.
As far as that goes. But yeah, so we're like BHA is a public land organization. Kansas aside, before I go any further with that, we've always said that we are either 48th or 49th, like at the bottom of percentage of public lands for states in America. I want to revote because I think we're the worst.
You think
I think we are now the worst officially because the one that we could always count on having a higher percentage than was, I think it's Rhode Island. It's one of the states back in there, one of the smaller states back in there, and they just got public access to their beach. Like from the high water mark and 10 feet in is now public land. And I'm curious.
The whole way?
Yeah.
Oh, that must have made some rich people really
I'm sure
mad.
it did. I'm sure it did.
Wow.
But that's, I mean, honestly, it's like that's
Surprised
been
that
the
got
federal
through.
law forever.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I kind of want to revisit those numbers. I want somebody way smarter at math than me.
So you want to be 50 out of 50?
I don't want to be that, but I wonder if we are. It's like that's the way my brain works. Like I wonder if now we have been beaten by Rhode Island.
I mean, if you
Kansas, and we got beat by Rhode Island in percentage of public land.
I don't know how much time you spend on Onyx, but I mean,
way more than I should.
It's not a lot.
Yeah,
it's not a lot, and especially not a lot around here.
Yeah, and so we don't have, as far as public lands go, we have almost none.
Right.
And there are very large, very powerful lobbying groups who don't want us to even have that, which I don't understand. To me, they're taking an anti-hunting look or approach to this deal. And I don't think they look at it that way, but that's the effect of it.
Sure.
I don't think they're intentionally doing that. I'm not saying that. I think that's the effect of it. Because that's the number one problem, hurdle. The number one hurdle for people to get over to start hunting and fishing is access.
Yeah.
And we have no access in Kansas.
Well, what
does that mean?
What's popular? You have the gravel pits down in southeast Kansas.
Mine
strips or whatever it is. Yeah. You've got some stuff out southwestern, but there's almost none right around here, or there's very, very little.
Well, public lands in Kansas basically means a reservoir and the floodplain behind that reservoir.
And that's it.
There's a few freestanding places, like there's the Byron Walker area kind of down by Kingman and Pratt down in there. And there's a Sand Hills area, but by and large, it's like Cheney.
Yeah.
Cheney Reservoir and the floodplain behind it. And that's our public land.
El Dorado.
And the dam and the floodplain behind it is our public lands. That's basically what we get in Kansas.
And the El Dorado one, from some of the stories I've heard, you want to be real careful going up there during rifle season. Because there are way too many people on that land.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was out there bird hunting during rifle season last year.
Oh, well, that was smart of you.
It was interesting. Well, I was getting ready we're getting way off topic.
Whatever, that's fine. We don't have a topic.
We always have our in-person board meeting because we're all over our board is all over the state. We never get together except for once a year.
Okay.
And it's at El Dorado. And last year, and it's in January that we get together out there. And last year, some of the guys wanted to go upland bird hunting because we've got guys that have never done that before. And so I was out there in end of, I guess it was a doe season. Now that I think about it, it was a doe rifle season out there. And so it wasn't the big buck season and all that kind of stuff. It was during the doe season. But I was out there poking around trying to find some quail or something. And by the way, found a large number of quail. So don't think you can't be successful.
Yellow-breasted quail?
No, I don't do those.
Hopefully we don't run into those.
I don't do those.
Hopefully there are no more of those in Colby.
Okay. But so back to your original question, and so because of all of that conversation that we just had about how little public land we have, we'll do anything. If we can get public access for hunting purposes or fishing purposes to something, we'll pretty much do it. And so there was a farmer that had two separate and distinct farm areas. And one of them is leased out to a TV show for deer purposes. I don't know. I don't even know what the show is. I don't know. I don't really watch those, so I don't know.
Okay.
But so it was leased out, all leased up and everything. But the other one is like 1,700 acres. So it's a big farm and ranch. And but the TV host guy he was complaining a little bit because there was a locust tree infestation on part of the property. And I don't know if you know about wild locust trees. They are terrible. They have thorns about this long all over them, and they're just nasty, awful, and they're terrible to get rid of. But he wanted to get rid of those locust trees. So Wildlife and Parks approached us and said, hey, we've got this guy. He's thinking about enrolling his 1,700 acre, or we'd like to get his 1,700 acre farm enrolled in walk-in hunting, which gives us public access to that. But he's pretty hesitant to do so. He doesn't really want it. but he's got this locust tree infestation. Would you guys go in and help us get rid of all those locust trees? Because we think if we can do that, he'll go ahead and open up his 1,700 acres for walk-in. And we were like, you bet we will do that. And that was a terrible job. I mean, it was tedious and awful and horrible. And we're probably going to get to go up and hit it again to get rid of all of them. But we did it there we are working on improving this land that's leased up for a TV show.
Right.
All that kind of stuff that we are not
the
terribly in favor of.
Right, yeah.
But we'll do it.
Right.
If it gets us access to 1,700 acres for everyone in the world that wants to and get off their butt and get out there and hunt it, absolutely we'll do it. Absolutely. And so, we were out there, and it was an interesting process. I'd never done that before, but it's like all the trees that were, I don't know how you judge a tree, but like if the trunk was that big around, then you had to take a chainsaw and cut a groove through the bark around the tree. And then they had some chemical that you squirted.
Spray on it, yeah.
That would then be absorbed in and kill the tree.
Uh-huh.
But if it was smaller than that, then you sprayed that same chemical on the bark of the tree, but you had to get it completely around the entire tree or it would still live.
Okay.
Because they're incredibly tough. The problem is they grow from the roots by the ton.
Okay.
And so there were millions of trees about as big around as your little finger.
What are you supposed to do
if
with
you
those?
don't kill them,
Yeah.
they go crazy.
Sure.
And so it was super tedious and it was super long and thorns everywhere all over you.
Wait, so the only time you got to use a chainsaw was to cut the bark?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
There wasn't even any fun of like cutting down a tree. Cutting down trees is fun
even if
in the
thorns.
appropriate place.
Yeah.
We didn't get to cut them down because if you cut them down, they just continue to grow. It doesn't kill them.
What do you mean?
If you
it's going to kill that one.
If you cut, no, it will send out shoots and grow again. Yes. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
They are a very tough tree and they're not native to Kansas. They're an invasive species. So they're not supposed to be here. They're not supposed to be on our landscape. And wildlife doesn't like them. Nothing much really likes them. And deer hunters don't like them. So they shouldn't be here. So that guy wanted him out of there.
Is this with the bean looking things?
No.
This is a black locust tree.
Yeah. And I don't know what the official, I've got a thornless locust tree at my house, and it's nothing like these trees.
Okay.
It is
so this
nothing.
Is totally something separate.
Yeah. And maybe
there you go. Yep. Is that it? Because we have these up. There's a school up here. Walk my dogs through a path through it sometimes, and they've got these they look like something out of a horror movie.
Yeah, they're terrible.
That's really what they look like.
Yeah. The thorns on them are just terrible. In fact, you just get like jabbed everywhere.
Uh-huh.
When you're trying to get all the way around one of the little tiny ones, and it's in the middle of a bunch of other stuff, and so you just end up getting poked everywhere. And after I left, I was driving down the road, and I moved my hat for something, and I was like, "What was that?" And I reached back here, and I had like literally a thorn like this long, like it had gone in my scalp, like back this way, and you get poked all the time, but it stayed in there.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, great!" And I was like. And while I was driving, I was pulling this thing out of my
that's
head.
fun.
So it was fun. But yeah, it was just a horrible, tedious day. But we had a pretty good turnout out there and did a lot of the work on that. Wildlife and Parks was out there. They supplied the chemical for us. And so it was a big collaboration to get this deal. But yeah, we got 1,700 acres of walk-in hunting. It's open to the public now because we did one day of work for that farmer. And, really the best part of that day, I was out, I don't know, I thought I was away from everybody. And all of a sudden I see this older guy walking around spraying stuff. And so I was like, hey, I hadn't seen him before. Ends up it was the landowner.
Oh,
and
he came out with you.
He came out. He was working as well, which I appreciated that part of it.
Sure.
But I started talking to him and thanked him for signing his property up for walk-in hunting. And he really didn't understand why walk-in hunting was important in Kansas. He's like, I know I got some money and some hunters are going to come out and, I'm not crazy about people walking all over my farm, but I think it's okay. And, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of just like explained why in Kansas in particular, we need walk-in hunting because we have no public land to speak of. And afterwards, after we had that whole conversation and exchanged recipes for prairie chickens and all kinds of fun stuff like that, it was a lot of fun because afterwards he's like, I sit at the coffee shop every morning with all my farmer buddies. I'm going to go tell all of them that they ought to put their land in walk-in hunting. And so I was like, that's pretty fantastic.
That is great.
Yeah.
Where is this?
It's out in western Kansas, Edwards County, I want to say.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure that that's right.
Unfortunately, the only town I know out there is Colby. That's literally the only town I know. Yeah.
I've learned that about you.
Yeah. If it doesn't affect me directly, I'm unaware of it.
But yeah, so that was an interesting project that we've worked on this year. I will say that we have had a good year in helping obtain walk-in hunting this year, because there's 2 other properties that we've had a hand in getting enrolled in walk-in hunting. Actually 3. No, 2, excuse me. But one of them, the vice chair that we've had forever, Jeff Hancock, he and I do the podcast. Jeff was in on this even before me because he was in on it before BHA days. But the cities of Hayes and Russell bought a ranch long ago for the purpose of obtaining the water rights from that ranch.
Okay.
And it's a big ranch, 7,700 acres.
Okay.
And they've had that for a long time and never opened it up for any use other than that because they didn't want to make anybody mad. And I understand that. And it's gone through, 20 years of legal fights over the water.
Okay.
And that has all now, I think, gone through all of the stages. And we've held, I don't know how many meetings with them trying to talk them into, why not put that in walk-in hunting? It's 7,700 acres that's just sitting out there. It's owned by the cities. It's basically public lands, but they won't allow any hunting, fishing, anything like that on it. And so it just sat there. And finally, this year, they enrolled it in walk-in hunting after all these years. And so that was fantastic to get that. And then just I think 4 or 5 miles from there, the Nature Conservancy has a big ranch out there, and they decided to and that was 6,700 acres.
Okay.
So they decided to put that in walk-in hunting. It's in the IWEHA program. I don't know if you're familiar with that. We can talk about that in a minute, but they decided to put that ranch as well into walk-in hunting this year. And we had a service project out there where I think 6,700 acres or a ranch or whatever. For walk-in hunting purposes, they put a sign up every quarter mile on the exterior of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 21 miles is what it ended up being. We hung, and so BHA came out and hung the signs on the fence for them, because that would have taken Wildlife and Parks
forever.
For their 1 or 2 people out there.
Mm-hmm.
It would have taken them forever.
Yep.
We had 20 people out there and knocked it out in the morning.
Yep.
And of course, the big thing was you could take your 4-wheeler to do this project and drive all over this property and scout it for hunting.
So everybody was loving that. I'm sure.
And so we had a lot of people show up for that one. And so, but that was cool. We knocked out that. And so that means several full days that the Wildlife and Parks guys, wildlife biologists and whatever, got to go do their real jobs instead of just out there hanging signs. And so, 16,000 acres got added this year. BHA had a hand in. So that's kind of fun.
That is awesome.
I like that a lot.
Absolutely awesome.
It was a good year.
What is this Iowa program?
Oh, IWEHA. Okay, so
I was close with Iowa.
So the walk-in hunting area, WIHA, is generally called WEHA.
Got it.
And so that's your standard, and they have 1 million acres in Kansas in the walk-in hunting program. And here a few years ago, one of the drawbacks of the walk-in hunting program is almost none of it is near large metropolitan areas. From Wichita, you have to drive, I think it's at least an hour
to get to anything.
Yep. At all. And usually it's 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hunt anywhere near Wichita. I'm long ways from Wichita when I go out, and I hunt exclusively walk-in hunting or public lands.
Right.
That's pretty much exclusively what I do. And, but to try to get more properties closer to metropolitan areas, they started the IWEHA.
Okay.
And What that is, it's a deal where the owner of the land gets to set conditions, I would say, on how many people are going to be there, what hours they're going to be there. Like the owner of the land can set lots of restrictions. And as a hunter, you have to check in and check out to get in and off the property.
Is it an app?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And they've gone through a few different apps. Some of them are not so great at all. This one is better. There's still, you still have to have cell phone reception. There's a lot of places in Kansas where you don't have great cell phone reception. And so that's kind of been a drawback on it. But, and there was some, but anyway, they've got that program up and running now, and it's doing pretty well. There's, especially up in the Kansas City area, there's places now reasonably close to Kansas City where you can hunt on IWEHA property.
IWIHA. There's no app that comes up under IWEHA.
No, it's like, gosh, I should know that. I'm embarrassed about that.
I'll look it up later.
They've gone through
the IWEHA app. It's fun.
Yeah, I use Onyx.
Yeah.
And that takes care of all of that. But yeah, so there's several properties up by Kansas City now where the folks in Kansas City can drive 20 minutes from town and be hunting.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's, there's lots of restrictions. There's only one person per day or something like that can do it. And you have to so it's a competition to get that. You start it, you have to register by whatever, 5 o'clock in the morning. And so it's a race. Everybody's trying to be the first one that gets that, stuff like that. And there were issues at the beginning, like people were figuring out ways to monopolize certain spots. And so it would just be their spot, basically. And so we've worked, in fact, we had a couple of meetings with the Wildlife and Parks guys that run the walk-in hunting program, and to kind of work through like some stuff that we've seen in other states, to do away with all that sort of thing. And so it's pretty good now. It's doing pretty well. So
awesome.
But it's a good program and gets more hunting land available close to town.
Sure. If it gets more people out in the field hunting, at this point, it's almost like I'm all for it. There obviously are some things I wouldn't be okay with, but the number of people I've talked to just in the last year or so who, anytime my job comes up, one of the things I always ask them, I'm like, hey, do you do any hunting? Do you do any processing? It's like, no, I did as a kid, but I don't really have anywhere to do it.
That's the problem.
It really is.
Yeah. Access, like I said earlier, access is the number one hurdle to get people over, to get them out hunting and fishing anymore, especially hunting. Sorry.
Yeah, fishing you can kind of always find a place.
Fishing you can, like all the reservoirs that we talked about, like you can go fishing there. It's not a horrible problem there. But yeah, on the hunting end of things, access is the problem, and that's across America, but especially here where we have so little public land. And that's why I say the effect of what some of the big lobbying groups are doing is anti-hunting. Just because it keeps people from hunting. I mean, it does. Our lack of public lands keeps people from hunting. There's no question about that.
I get it though. If I ever owned, 5,000 acres, nobody's walking on that land but me.
and I understand that. Yeah. I do.
It's hard. Because I want to walk on their land, but I don't. So
I totally understand that. But the thing that is the biggest problem as far as I'm concerned is last year in the legislature, I'm not even sure they're going to try it again this year, but last year there was a bill that was either introduced or maybe even just talked about, and it got shot down before anything happened on it. In Lovewell Reservoir up in Jewell County, right up on the Nebraska border. It's a beautiful spot. I hunt up there a lot. But there was a farmer who owned some ground right next to the reservoir, right next to the wildlife management area of the reservoir.
Okay.
That farmer wanted to sell his land. He was an older guy, as I recall, and he wanted to sell his land to the state to have it included in that public hunting land. He couldn't do that, which is so weird to me. In America, that farmer can't sell his land the way he wants to because he wanted to sell it to Wildlife and Parks.
He had to just open it up to everybody?
No, he can't. Like if you have something that you want to sell to your buddy, it'd be like you can't sell it to your buddy until it goes through the legislature. because there's a law that says if there's an area 160 acres or greater, and you want to sell that to wildlife and parks, that has to go through the legislature. I always joke around and call it like it has to have an act of Congress.
Sure.
Which makes no sense to me. That guy wants to sell it to the state. He can sell it to a developer.
Yeah, I don't
to have houses built all over it. He could sell it to somebody in China. He could sell it to somebody back east. He could do anything, but he can't sell it to his own state. That makes no sense to me. It's like that just like makes no sense to me. He can sell it to anybody else in the world, but he can't sell it to his own state.
So obviously I don't think he should be able to sell it to China, but I'm fine with some extra checks being in there to prevent the government from acquiring more land. Wildlife and Parks is still the government.
How much land do you think Wildlife and Parks owns that we get to hunt on?
Don't even have a guess.
0.27% of the agricultural land.
Oh, that is way too much. That is an enormous
I didn't say
amount.
27%.
No, I know you said 0.27. But
0.27.
in Kansas?
In Colorado, a third of the state is owned by the government. Nevada is like 80%.
Right.
Yeah.
There are commies out there. I don't want to be like that. No,
we want to go.
I'm just kidding. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
but it just seems terribly, terribly odd to me that a farmer can't sell his land the way he wants to. I just
should be able to do whatever he wants to do with it.
It seems like it's un-American to me.
Yep. I was completely joking. He should be able to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
It's his property.
That drives me crazy. Because there was a guy that wants to sell it to the state.
And then open it up to everybody.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Think about it. Maybe he spent his entire, I don't know, but maybe he spent his entire life making like a deer haven. That was, he had a farm, but he turned it into a white-tailed deer, incredible spot. And he wants it to stay that way. He doesn't want to sell it to somebody who's going to knock everything down and
or privatize it
or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. He wants it to go to the state so that everybody can hunt there.
Yeah.
And he can't do that.
Yeah.
And so he sold it to, oh gosh, I can't remember now. Maybe Pheasants Forever, Land Acquisition, something like that. And so they are trying now to sell it to the state. They can hold it for a while to try to get an act of Congress to happen, which makes no sense to me. But that's the process that we have to go through. And I think that's just wrong. I do. I think that's like morally wrong to tell that farmer that he can't do with his land what he wants.
Yeah, sure. It's your own private property.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Real quick, I know you're more of a elk and upland guy, but do you do any whitetail hunting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Did you happen to see there was a 268 non-typical?
Was it Oklahoma?
It's somewhere. I was going to say Arkansas, but maybe it was Oklahoma.
I just saw a brief thing.
And it had two, what looked like large drop tines, like knocked off of it. It is one of the coolest racks I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like if you look at it from the side, it somehow looks like a football helmet, like the mask of a football helmet. I'm like, oh, wow, that's intimidating to see that. But I looked at that for a long time last night. And it was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm a deer hunter forever. I grew up cutting up deer and stuff in my dad's, meat processing shop and all that kind of stuff. And we only went hunting a few times. It was up in the mountains. But I loved it. And so, I've continued to do that as an adult. I hopefully get deer every year.
So you were up in Wyoming this year, bird hunting? Montana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We were up in Montana chasing birds around up there for a couple of weeks.
How'd that go?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was very difficult at first because it was hot.
Yeah.
It was like 95 degrees.
How many dogs you have with you?
2.
Okay. They do okay?
Yeah. One of them passed away, unfortunately, on the way back. Not because there was any problem or anything. He was an old dog and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we had a great time up there. It was very challenging because it was so hot. You could only hunt like an hour or 2 in the morning. And then you're basically just trying to stay cool the rest of the day. Because we don't stay in a hotel or anything like that. We camp. And so basically, and there's no trees up there.
Nothing.
There's no trees. And so we were driving through this little town one time and I was like, oh my gosh, look over there. There's trees, not by somebody's house. And so we pulled over there and it was we thought it was like a defunct church.
Okay.
that had some trees still over the parking area and stuff like that. And so we spent like 3 days, like just hanging out in the parking lot.
Getting some shade.
Yeah, we're just sitting there in the shade because it wasn't a paved parking lot or anything. And so we were there and had the dogs out cooling down. And so, we were just hanging out there. It ended up, it was not defunct.
Oh.
Everybody showed up. It was an old Catholic church and everybody showed up for mass one day. Everybody is in like,
the 8 of them.
Yeah, the 5 cars.
Yeah.
All of a sudden came pulling into the lot at the same time.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah. So we were apologizing and then we got out. But then I don't know if you remember, because it was even down here in September, there was a bunch of smoke from some Canadian wildfires. Yep. Well, where we were at was like where it came across and it was thick there. And I mean, eyes
like
burning.
trouble breathing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like Canadian grass. Dude.
And it was difficult. I mean, we stuck it out for like a day and a half, and then I was like, we got to get out of the smoke. So I sat down with a map and just looked at the map and weather.com trying to see where there was no smoke. We ended up driving 6 hours over to Bozeman.
Okay.
To get out of the smoke. Basically.
Bozeman's pretty though.
Yeah, Bozeman's nice. We hung out there for a day or 2.
Is there good hunting around there? Or
we didn't hunt.
Okay.
We just kind of hung out there.
Not.
Yeah. There was I was looking for some new boots anyway. There's a couple of good boot companies there. So I checked them out and so I bought a pair of boots while we were there and just kind of hung out and waited for the smoke to clear, and then we went back, and then it was phenomenal. It was great.
So they haven't been drought up there?
Yeah. I mean, it's dry.
As dry as here?
No.
Okay.
Not as dry as here, but it was drier last year. It was a little better this year. Not great. But we had great bird hunting up there this year.
Yeah. I worry
when
about,
we came back out. It was great.
I worry about the dogs in Colby weekend after. They're going to have a hard time finding anything.
Yeah. The problem is, for dogs to be able to smell the birds, there has to be some moisture in the air.
Yep.
Or else their nose just dries out and they can't smell anything.
Yeah.
And so, that's a dry area anyway. But years like this,
as bad as it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were reading things saying that the drought has continued so bad that the cattle herd, like at best, this will be a push year, like not a rebuilding year at all.
Right.
So I'm very worried about beef prices, our beef herd, all of that.
There's plenty of deer.
Worse and worse.
Go deer hunting, everybody.
Hey, I mean, that is one thing to do for sure.
And I hate to tell the beef industry this, but I don't eat a whole lot of beef anymore.
Oh, don't worry, I eat yours.
I believe that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't, at my house we really don't eat much beef at all. I eat mainly wild game most of the time.
Do you have a favorite?
Elk is really good. But I'm a guy that I enjoy the different flavors of meat.
Yep.
I do. And there's a lot of people go, oh, this is gamey. If it's gamey, that means generally speaking, you overcooked it
or processed it wrong.
Yeah,
one of those two things.
Right.
I've eaten elk twice, and one was just in a sausage. It was the closest to beef in a wild game that I've had. Mm-hmm. I thought it had more of an umami flavor than any of the other large animals I've eaten. So
yeah. It's like I said, I just like to taste the difference of the different kinds of meat. But yeah, elk is very, I don't want to say mild, but it's not, if you handle it right, there's no gaminess to it.
Yeah. I didn't.
Anyway, and if you have eaten elk that's gamey, it's because it got way overcooked.
Now, you only say that though, because I don't think we gave you any of the mountain lion that we
That's
had.
correct.
Had you gotten some of the mountain lion, that'd be your favorite.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and somebody else said, it wasn't mountain lion, it was something else like beaver or something.
No.
I had a guy tell me,
beaver is disgusting.
Didn't you guys eat the tail or something?
That's not good.
Yeah, no, not the tail. Somebody told me that about beaver as well. That like the back legs, like the hams on a beaver are supposed to be, you know what? And I'm a guy that also believes that like God put everything here on earth for a reason.
Sure.
And there's a way to cook everything. And so if you can find that right way to cook things, it's phenomenal. Like the birds that we were hunting up in Montana, sharp-tailed grouse.
Yeah.
A lot of people compare them to prairie chickens here in Kansas. They're like,
which reminds me, I have to get my prairie chicken tag.
They're very similar species.
Yeah.
And they both do have strongly flavored meat, I would say. But like you cook it the right way. Like we've got and it sounds funny, but it's like a stew almost, what's the difference between soup and a stew? Something about the broth. Anyway, it's that kind of stuff. And it's absolutely delicious. And we use a recipe that would be like what Native Americans would have, the way they would have cooked it, because it's got the Native Americans' 3 sisters: beans, corn, and squash. And it's delicious. I mean, I will have that for dinner tonight. We just made up a batch.
So I've never had a prairie chicken. You're saying that does not have, like, I was thinking it would taste somewhat similar to pheasant.
No.
Okay.
It's got a, what's the, you know who Hank Shaw is?
Yeah.
Hank Shaw, he's got a piece out where he talks about sharp-tailed grouse, and he says that they have an assertive flavor.
That's a nice way to say that. I think that's
fair. And prairie chickens are real similar.
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, it's not, if you just like peel off a breast and throw it on the grill, it's probably not going to be
not
that
gonna
great.
like it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you take care of it the right way, those are both birds that you need to field clean them right after you shoot them.
Okay.
Pheasant, quail, you don't need to do
Not
that.
so much.
Yeah. But they're both grouse, and that's the thing with grouse. You need to field clean them real quick.
Is there a reason for that we know of, or is it just
it just makes a difference.
The way
I know that because I've cleaned a bunch of them.
Okay.
And hunted them for a while.
That'll work.
And there's a difference. I've noticed a difference. I don't know any scientific reason for it, but I think it makes a difference.
Thinner membranes on the something. It could be anything.
I don't know.
Who knows?
But pull that stuff out of there right quick. And
well, you think about it. I mean, there was years and years that went into figuring out that you had to keep a pig calm so you didn't spike its adrenaline before you killed it,
right,
or you ruin the meat. So,
right.
I mean, there's
things like that.
Yep.
I don't understand. I'm not smart enough to understand all that, but I know what happens.
I'm very glad that there's people out there who think of these things so that I can just, look at my little Google ads and be like, yeah, let's try that. We're going to try that. So there's something else though, outside of BHA.
That came about because Kansas as a state is missing out on getting a lot of federal funding that we could get. And it's going to other states instead of coming here.
Right.
And basically the way it works is there's a lot of programs out there that if the state will pay some matching money, then you receive some federal funding to get some things done. Like long-term conservation projects is a great example. And we've been missing out on a lot of that stuff. As an example, Mississippi started up a conservation fund last year, and they multiplied their money by 4 the first year.
Okay.
Like they put in $1 million. They got $4 million out of it and it was millions and millions of dollars. But so that's kind of the concept of what we're trying to do is we're trying to get money that's out there already. It's not like we're increasing taxes.
Yeah. Talk about that because
it's funding that's already out there.
Right.
And so to get that funding, people that are a lot smarter than me figured out a way to not increase taxes here in Kansas and not create any additional agencies or departments or anything like that, but to more effectively utilize the tax dollars that we already have to get that federal funding and to invest in our state and invest in our pastures, invest in our parks, all that kind of stuff. And we're talking about like $63 million a year.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And we'll get that and we'll multiply it by 4.
I don't actually believe that the government's that ineffective that they're misspending $63 million. That's impossible.
Yeah, right.
Talk about the Kansas City, the sports.
Yeah. So the money that we're talking about, and this is a bill. It's not law yet.
Right.
And that's what Kansas for Conservation is asking, is trying to do is get this bill passed. The money will come from 3 major areas. One of them is some lottery money that is being paid out as winnings. They're paying more than they have to on that stuff. It was supposed to be for the benefit of all the people in the state,
right?
Not just to pay out winnings,
right?
And they're paying out more, and so dropping that back somewhat closer to where it's supposed to be, that makes up about half of the money we're talking about, and then a fourth of it comes from a fund of money that was established when Kansas was trying to lure professional sports teams also known as the Royals and the Chiefs,
Yep.
To the state of Kansas. And that didn't work out so well. They stayed in Missouri, but that tax money is still there. And so utilizing that for some sports purposes, outdoor sports purposes in the state of Kansas. And again, it's going to get multiplied by 4 or 10 or whatever. And then the other one is, oh my gosh, now I'm drawing a blank.
Well, 2 out of 3.
Some of the money from the sales tax on sporting goods will be put into this fund as well.
Is that what we were talking about, the backpack tax?
Yeah, okay. It's similar. A backpack tax, if you're not familiar with that term, is the thought is that like hunters and anglers forever are the ones that paid for conservation.
Yep.
Through the Pittman-Robertson Act, the Dinkle-Johnson Act, all that kind of stuff. And it was not a deal that was done to us hunters. I'm so proud of this. We asked for it to happen back in the middle of the Depression. We realized that we as hunters had like cleared the landscape of most of the large animals, and we didn't think that was right and wanted to do something about it. And so we asked to pay more for guns, to pay more for ammo, to fund conservation. And we've done that since the days of the Depression. And so conservation in America has been funded by hunters and anglers. And there is some thought that maybe some of the other groups out there should be paying for that too. And the one that's a backpack tax is what that's generally referred to as, like, that's just an easy way to think about it. If you're out there just hiking,
sure,
and you buy a backpack, why don't you pay a little extra to help cover the cost for conservation? And so that's kind of the thought of this. There's no new taxes being put on anybody. It's just a directive to the legislature to take some of that money, some of the sales tax money that's done for sporting goods, and put it in this fund.
Push it to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's actually not an increase on the taxes. Like, go to REI, it's still going to cost me the same thing it did for the jacket. Okay.
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
It's just directing the legislature to take some of that money out of the sales tax and put it into this. No additional tax dollars, no additional state agencies. Like I said, the people that thought this up are way smarter than me. I just like the way it works.
Yeah.
And so the thought is that we're hopefully going to get it into the legislature this year.
Okay.
Because every year that we don't get it in there, we lose money. Every year, every month that goes by, we lose money. And so we're going to hit this thing hard and fast, and we're building a coalition of groups behind this effort. And it is about the most diverse group that I've ever seen. And the reason for that is that where the money is going to be utilized, half of this money, for right now, the way it's set up is half of the money is going to be used for conservation purposes on private lands. It's like we talked about, there's no public lands in Kansas. That means everything else is privately owned.
Right.
So half of this money is going to be utilized for conservation practices and education on private lands. And so the agricultural groups are behind it. All the big agricultural groups think this is a great deal, and it is. And we have a board member that explained to me, because one of the things that I was initially a little miffed about, and I won't lie about that, I was a little upset about it. I thought that number should be far less, because right now there is a ton of money out there in some instances for farming practices through the Farm Bill to the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a ton of money out there for farmers to utilize right now, almost more than they can spend. And with that being the case, I was like, why are we throwing more money at it? Which in my brain made sense. One of our board members works for one of the government agencies, I don't remember which one, that helps spend the Farm Bill money. And his thought on it is that it makes perfect sense, and it is vastly needed because it's a local response. We can address local needs in Kansas with this money, because the way the Farm Bill works is like they have the one size fits all for America approach.
Right.
Here's this program. It's going to be great for everybody. Well, that doesn't work in Kansas.
Right.
So it does, we don't get any money out of that. That's an example. And his deal is this now fills in the gaps for the federal programs that are out there that don't fit. There's all this stuff out here that doesn't fit. We've got this, and there's no response from the government. But now we have this fund that can come in and still get a different kind of federal matching money And so it really does make sense.
Okay.
It really is. And it took me a while to wrap my head around that. And I'm probably not explaining it very well.
Right.
But it's like, it's a better local response as opposed to the federal response.
Sure.
So half the money is going there, and then a quarter of the money is going to improve our parks across the state.
Okay.
And then a quarter of it goes to wildlife conservation practices here in Kansas. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a ton of sense. And we've got, like I said, the big agricultural groups are behind this bill, conservation groups, water conservation groups. I mean, you name it. And part of what I'm doing with that effort is to bring it to business people, and to get the business world behind it as well. And it just makes too much sense to not do this. We're missing out on a lot of federal money.
Right.
And if it's out there already, we've already paid that through our taxes, we might as well be getting it out. I may agree or disagree with it being taken out of my paycheck. That's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, it's there, and it was taken out, and that tax money is there. And so if it's there, we damn well better get it. Otherwise, we're just wasting our money.
Losing it. Yep.
Yeah.
Letting other states take it.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, face it, like we're all in competition for business and tourism and all that kind of stuff. One of the problems in Kansas is we have, more people leaving than we got coming in.
Is Kansas a shrinking state?
It usually is. I don't know about this particular year. Look at my family. My 2 kids are in Colorado.
They're gone.
And why did they go out there? Because there's so much stuff to do.
Yeah.
And they're not talking about going shopping. My kids both love to hike and fish and hunt and all that.
But you
kind of
understand,
stuff.
no matter how much public land we have around here, you're never going to compete with what Colorado has, right?
That's on that particular thing. That's correct.
Right.
Their point to me was that there's really not much to do here,
There's
unless you're going to go hunt birds.
So you're going to get people who like to do that and then like to not do much else.
Right.
There's some pretty sweet mini malls here. I don't know if you're going around.
Oh God!
I do have
it pains me to hear you say that.
I love
God,
shopping.
I hate that.
I love shopping.
So I just spent the last weekend. Part of the reason I'm so exhausted is we were in Branson, Missouri. We played like some ridiculous number of holes. It's not a multiple of 9 because one of the places we played was a 13-hole course. Nicest course I've ever played on.
It's Missouri.
Like it was all 4 of them were some of the nicest courses I've ever played on. But the scenery out there is so beautiful, right? Like you're just on mountaintops and you have these like almost like arroyos, like these beautiful areas.
Right.
But I'm sorry to say this, the people aren't as good. Like the people in Kansas,
fantastic.
I know I'm biased, but I've lived a lot of places. The people here are better than they are other places because we don't have all these things to go out. Like what we have is each other.
Yeah.
Like, so we talk and we hang out and we do things. Like it's just you're going to draw different types of people. You're never going to get the type of person who wants to live just outside of Denver or Boulder to be happy here. Like, it's just a different thing.
Hate it.
They
visit here.
It.
They're the worst.
Listen, I've finally come around to the fact that Kansas has some beauty in it. It's just a little bit different than what I was used to. And for me, it was being in somebody's backfield early morning, sun just coming up, all the grass is waving, dogs are burning through some grass. And I was like, wow, that is actually really, really pretty.
It is.
But it's just a different type.
It is different. As we were going through all of that, I was going, I'm hearing all of the public lands people, that I know here in Kansas that are screaming about, what are you talking about? Kansas is awesome and it's beautiful and it's great. And we've got all of these things to offer. And we do. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's
some cool stuff.
There's actually a lot.
There's not enough scary rides. We need heights. I want to fall off a mountain.
I mean, that very much might be what
that's 100% what it is.
It really might be.
Heights that also it adds to great scenic views too.
It's stuff. What we have in Kansas is stuff that you have to slow down to appreciate. It's not going to just walk up and slap you in the face and say, I'm gorgeous.
Okay.
But if you slow down and take a look at it and appreciate what it is, there's some fantastically beautiful places.
Do you have an example of like something?
I'm not going to say a whole lot because I don't like a lot of people going out there.
Oh, okay.
But there's actually some, well, I mean, it's not huge secrets, but there's some like scenic byways that go off of I-70 out of Northwest Kansas. They're spectacular.
Okay.
That's an easy one. There you go. I gave you something. But it's some of those places up there. And again, it's not just going to slap you in the face and say I'm beautiful. Yeah. You have to slow down and appreciate it. And I know that's a problem for you, but it's there. And I'm sorry that you're missing out on it because you're missing out. You should go check it out.
I'm sure it's the slowing down part I don't like.
But it is. There are several places that are just gorgeous.
Yeah, there's actually, I looked it up. I'm glad I could find it in time. But a guy that would come across, like mutual friends on Facebook, oddly enough, he did a whole series on places to explore in Kansas, so to speak. He's ABT Films. It's on YouTube, and it does he does Barber County,
Alpha
Kansas.
Bravo Tango. ABT.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's probably what that is. But yeah, does the Badlands of Kansas, Lions in Kansas. Yep. I didn't know that. He does a Hell's Half Acre. Looks like that's in Kansas. So yeah, there's a lot of Medicine Hills.
What's Hell's Half Acre?
I'm not sure. We have to watch the video.
We'll have to look it up.
There you go. You have to go there and check it out. Cool. But there are beautiful places to go in Kansas. There truly are. We did a service project. Here's a little gem to go check out. Chase State Fishing Lake. It's up by Cottonwood Falls. It's about 45 minutes or an hour from right here where we're sitting.
Really?
And when you hit that place right in the spring, there's actually a waterfall in Kansas. Now it's kind of man-made.
I was going to say, no, there's not.
Don't worry about that part. But like I said, if you hit it right after a rain up there, and it's gorgeous, and there's this little trail that goes down to the bottom of it, and some people had fallen going down that trail, and so we went and rebuilt the trail.
Oh, okay.
But the thing that I really, and that's what draws a lot of people there to that place. The other thing, no.
Oh, okay.
No. But the other thing that is, I think, beautiful there is it is out in like the last vestiges of unbroken prairie out there. And we sponsored, we helped sponsor this conference called Working Lands for Wildlife last year in Manhattan, and it was a big deal. And so part of that was we got to take a tour of some of the ranches. I didn't know that's where we were going, but it was like a couple of the ranches right there by Chase State Fishing Lake.
Yeah.
And to learn what they had done to maintain it and all that kind of thing. And to see that kind of beauty was amazing. And you can see just about everything that we saw on that tour of all these private places just by hiking this one hill out at the fishing lake. And you can see, it feels like you can see forever.
What do they have up there for? Are we talking bass? Are we talking?
Yeah. They had, I don't know if they still have it. It was one of the few places in Kansas that had smallmouth bass.
Oh.
And I don't know if they still have, I don't know if those are still there or not. I don't know. But I know, the reason I know that is because there's a fly fishing club here in Wichita that I used to do a lot of stuff with. Yep. And one of the guys from that used to go up there and fly fish for the smallies that were up there. And
fly fishing for smallies is not for the faint of heart.
That's correct.
That is a
it's awesome.
Fun sport. All right. Did I ever show you this?
Probably not. That looks semi-painful. Was that your hand?
I put it all the way through.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, they've seen it. It's
the treble hook.
This is the treble hook through my hand.
Ouch.
I could see your phone so well.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So good to know.
Okay. So we can just hold things up.
Yeah.
There you go. We're learning. We're right 4 years into the podcast. We're still learning new things.
We got to drink more on this podcast.
Yeah, right.
So we learn
That's what happens. No, I eventually had to cut the back end of that and push it through.
Mm-hmm.
I tried bringing it back through a bunch because I didn't want. It was a brand new hook that the Rapala guys had just given me up in Canada, and caught a bass on it. Like first cast. Caught a bass on it. A couple casts later, caught another one. And as I was pulling it up, I'm like, this isn't hooked well. And as I put my hand on it, it just went bananas.
Right.
And I felt like a sharp prick. And I was like, I know what happened. And so I threw the bass back in the lake, probably a little bit more aggressively than I needed to. And I looked down. I'm just like, I know this is bad. Like, I know it's in there good. And I was like, oh, great. So I'm walking, and I hadn't even thought to release my bail. So it's yanking on him like, oh. But yeah,
ouch.
That was fun.
Couldn't do the back it out thing.
Nope. So we squeezed the barb on it, but every time it just kept getting caught. And I was like, this isn't worth it
just
anymore.
Cut it and go. Yeah.
Plus it's a better story. I had to push it through.
Yeah. There you go. But so I mean, that's a beautiful place in Kansas because through that Working Lands for Wildlife, I learned a ton. Attending that. Like everybody talks about losing the rainforest and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We've lost the grasslands and we're continuing to lose the grasslands faster than the rainforests.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the rainforest. Let's take care of the grasslands.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, it's right here. And it does a better job at carbon sequestration, if that's what we're talking about, than the rainforests do.
Now
we're talking crazy.
We're talking poisonous frogs, bub.
Right. That's what we're in anacondas. Do we have anacondas here? We don't have anacondas.
Baboons. We want stuff that
but I learned a ton at that deal, and one of the things I learned about was those prairie lands out there and all that stuff.
I follow a guy on Instagram who's all about native grass restoration projects, and what he does is he will get in touch with highway departments, and his big thing is taking old rest stations. Basically just having them raise it, just get rid of all the pavement, all the everything. And he goes and he plants all the native, and it is really actually pretty. He comes back a year later or so and is
it's gorgeous.
This is what we have now.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. The Tallgrass Prairie Preserve. I don't know if you've been up there. That's a road trip you could do. It's about an hour from here.
I don't think so.
It's a joint venture between the National Park Service and I think the Nature Conservancy.
Okay.
And yeah, there's buffalo roaming around. You can go out there in the prairie. It's back to what it was, 200 years ago or whatever.
How big is it?
It's pretty good size. I can't remember the acreage of it, but it's pretty good size. We like to go out there and hike and do stuff like that. It's beautiful. That's a place you can find some Kansas beauty.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of being around buffalo, to be honest.
They're usually off in the distance.
I never feel bad for the people who get messed with them at Yellowstone.
No,
I'm like, you deserve that.
That's that's like
karma.
Yeah. I'll not talk about that because I can get all wrapped up in
that. Sure. Yep. No reason to do that.
But the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve, it's up by Cottonwood Falls area up there, which is right by the Chase County or State Lake. It's all kind of up in that same area. It's absolutely gorgeous.
And we do have gorgeous sunsets.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. I choose to live here. I can go wherever I want.
Yeah,
now. I choose to live here.
I'm not.
It's wonderful.
Yep. I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
So
for sure.
All right. We got anything else? We are way over time.
Us?
No.
We still have beer.
I did have a question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
But let's keep it brief if we could. Because you're outside all the time.
Yep.
I'm sure the answer is probably no. Any Sasquatch sightings or near sightings? Near sightings.
What do you mean by near sightings?
Hold on. He's is that what I think it? No, it's probably not. Right? That's probably never happened. Right?
I have never sighted a Sasquatch.
So, having said that, do you assume the meat tastes good? And if it does,
of a Sasquatch?
Yeah. And what does it taste like if it were to taste like anything?
So Sasquatch is interdimensional. So it's never going to be seen.
It's just marinated, right?
It switches dimensions.
It's super tender.
B, it's like an ape, right?
I guess.
Right? That's what.
I guess.
I've never eaten any primate meat, so I don't know what the answer to that is.
If my dad was still alive, we could ask him when he's in Vietnam.
When
he was in Vietnam, they made him eat monkey.
Yeah.
So,
well, do you what we know about they have to be a certain amount of years old and they're covered in hair, so it's is the meat even going to be worth?
No,
at that
I
point,
have to imagine it'd be terrible.
It's 20-year-old. You're it's already jerky.
That's right. You cut it off and it's just good to go. Right there.
All right, this is a super aside here, but on your Sasquatch stuff, there's an old video, an old fishing video from 15 or 20 years ago called Eastern Rises, and it's about these guys that go to Russia. And which sounds like it has nothing to do with Sasquatch, except for about halfway through, they start talking about Sasquatch. And it's a lot of fun. You got to check that out sometime. Sure. Yeah. Eastern Rises. It's a great old film about going fishing.
Watch Eastern Rises online.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
We will check that out.
All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun as usual. So
thanks, guys. When Kurt and I get on here, you never know where we're going to go. I think we did a fairly good job of talking about what we wanted to talk about.
We did okay today.
We didn't bring up anything too off topic. I mean, everything was at least agriculture, hunting.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Conservation. Something. Yeah.
Those things we didn't talk about.
When you get a chance, please support the bill for the conservation fund. Whatever the bill gets called, please support that. It will make us money. I guarantee it.
How will we know what it's going to be called?
Kansans for Conservation.
Okay.
KansasForConservation.org is the website that you can go to if you want more information to check that out. And yeah, please support that. It just makes way too much sense not to.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for checking out the Meatgistics podcast. To shop everything but the meat, head on over to waltons.com. To get your meat processing questions answered by experts and enthusiasts alike, head on over to our online community at meatgistics.com. Waltons, everything but the meat.